Today I will be discussing, reviewing, and comparing the Osprey Farpoint 40 and the Deuter Transit 40. Both are travel backpacks with a capacity of 40 liters, and they are very similar in that regard. They are also designed to be carry-on size. They will work for domestic carry-on restrictions as well as international travel restrictions. So you can carry these both on with any smaller regional flights. I took a smaller flight from Scotland to Ireland with the Farpoint 40, and there were no problems with it going on board with me as carry-on. Haven't had that experience with the Deuter yet because it is a new bag. I got it this year for a week-long trip in Japan, but I won't be packing much different for a week than I did for 2 weeks. They both have stowable backpack straps, so we'll flip the Osprey over first. They're very similar in how they stow their straps. And so you take this panel down in the back, and then you roll from the top, a little tighter, and then you move your straps out of the way, the hip belt, and then there's a piece of Velcro that's exposed that then straps on and connects with a piece of Velcro that you can't see that are down here. And if you get it correct, it just stays like that. And so it's like that at all times. I honestly think Deuter has done a better job on stowing that panel than Osprey did. I'll show you how that works. This one, yes, rolls the same way. You open up, this Velcro is hidden because it's actually strapped to another piece of Velcro. You roll it in. And then bring the other Velcro up to meet it. And that one just sits a little flatter because it's got a little space down in there to stow. I like the way the Osprey bulges out a bit here at the bottom, whereas the Deuter sits flush, which I think helps it stand up a little better when you have it packed as a backpack and sitting upright. They both have dual grab handles. So on the Farpoint 40, you've got one up here. You've got one on the side as well, so you can carry it like a suitcase on its side, or as a backpack, you can grab it from the top. The Deuter has the same thing. You have a side grab handle that's not quite as big as the Osprey's grab handle, so I think it's a little less obtrusive, less likely to get caught on something accidentally. And then it has the top handle as well. Both of them come with straps that you can hook to create a duffel style bag if you had the backpack strap stowed. You can hook it up, and the Deuter has a similar system here and here. They both have load lifter straps when in backpack mode, which I find very functional. It will tuck, it'll hug the top of the backpack more to your back so it's not flopping and hanging farther away. And if one of them did not have that, I would be very disappointed, so I'm glad that they both have that. They're both panel loading, which means they open up quite a ways. I'll come over and show you that. The Deuter is a little louder with its metal zippers, which I actually prefer for the durability. Not that I've had a problem with the Osprey's nylon thread going into a plastic handle, but this one just feels a little more solid that it's not going to wear out. So panel loading, one thing that I think Deuter also did a better job of is there are no external compression straps, so you can unzip this and just quickly get into it. Obviously, if you're at the airport, you're not going to unzip it all the way, but the disadvantage to the Osprey is if I want to unzip my bag any more than that, and maybe that's enough for you, but sometimes you need to reach down a little further, you have to undo this external compression strap, and then it's just dangling there. I would have preferred if they would have made those removable, but they are definitely integrated into the stitching of the bag. When it comes to opening up as a panel loading, and then you also have to guide those out of your way as you're unzipping, which I find a little annoying because they flop back over and then you're zipping past them just like that. The Osprey actually opens up a little more fully than the Deuter, but that's actually not a terrible thing, because the reason the Deuter doesn't open up quite as fully is because it has a separate compartment underneath. So the Deuter has something the Osprey doesn't in that, which is a separate compartment that you can access from the bottom. You could put shoes in there, you could put dirty laundry in there, but if you want the entire section open to the main compartment and you don't want this divider separating it, you can unzip that, and it then gives you access all the way through. Similar to hiking backpacks that have that feature a lot of times, which I really like that flexibility. So because that smaller compartment is down there, the Deuter opens as fully as it can as a panel loader, but it doesn't flop all the way over as much as the Osprey does. They both have a shaped hard frame. The Osprey, you can kind of see the curvature here, and it seems a little stiffer. I will say the suspension system on the Osprey is excellent, but I've also tested the Deuter out, not on a trip, but just a little bit here at home, and their suspension system, I would say, is equal to the Osprey's. And so they both have a sizable hip belt that will wrap around. I think actually the Deuter's hip belt looks a little more substantial than the Osprey's and how it fits and just comfort wise. But I will say I was very happy with the Osprey suspension system as well as the Deuter. The Deuter also has a little bit of a stiff frame. You can feel it inside, and that's great for support and carrying all of your gear. Cons for both, things that I'm not a huge fan of on both of them. Osprey more so is Osprey loves these mesh pockets that you can see, but they're not secure at all. And I suppose you could put a water bottle in there, which I tried putting a water bottle in there, and it certainly fits, but then there's nothing to secure it there. And the water bottles are usually, if you're going to be this wide, it's going to be taller, and so they have a tendency to fall out. Deuter, of course, also has one of those mesh pockets, because you can't probably have a bag and not have a water bottle pocket, or people will be very upset. It's a little smaller, and it's just on one side, which I like the fact then that Deuter gives you this zippered pocket on the other side, because very rarely am I carrying two water bottles at the same time. That one at least I feel is secure. This one I'll probably never end up using, because if I'm going to have a water bottle and it's in a backpack, it's going to fall out of that, I would think, because it's not real deep, and it's going to fall out of these as well because they are very wide. Another thing is on both bags, when you have, and I'll show you once I have these all packed up, whenever you have a stash pocket or any pocket that goes to the outside and you put things in them, then that is taking up your interior space. So while this seems nice and roomy in this big open pocket right now, when I have it fully loaded, you'll see that there's very little space in this pocket. This is Osprey's laptop sleeve. It is in the middle of the bag, which is a complaint of several people, because it's more likely to bend and flex in the middle than it would against your stiff back. And so that's something that people don't care for about the Osprey in the reviews I've read. I don't carry a laptop with me, so for me it's not an issue. But on the Deuter, their laptop compartment is at the far back of the bag. I just use it to stash little things such as the handle that I never use in suitcase mode. But you can put flat items, and you will see me use that compartment for flat items, just not a laptop because I'm not carrying one. But this one, it is up against the hard frame on your back and the padding as well. It is padded, just like the Osprey is, but because of its location, your laptop might be a little safer. Talking about the materials that they're made out of, going from what Deuter has on their website, it's made with a combination of 600D polyester. I'm guessing that would be this. It has a polyester feel to it. And then a combination of 420 denier and 210 denier nylon. The 420 would be in the areas where it's going to get a little rougher usage. The Farpoint 40 uses 210 denier nylon mini hex diamond ripstop fabric, as well as 600D pack cloth. And unless you're really into your fabrics, I don't think that there's all that much of a difference. They both look durable. Obviously, this bag has not been on a trip with me. The Farpoint 40 has been, and it has held up very well, so no complaints there. The Farpoint 40 has one thing that the Deuter does not, which is lockable zippers. So they have these big kind of bulky plastic chunky zippers. It does have the holes in the zippers that you can lock, put a small lock through there and lock your bag zippers up. But as a carry-on, I never did it. And the other issue with that is you can do a YouTube search and you can see with this type of zipper that they have, if you have a ballpoint pen, you can simply poke it in there and pull the zipper out and apart even with these still locked. So it's not a huge deal. I'm not a fan of the big chunky plastic pull tabs that they have anyway. When it comes to other things on the Farpoint 40, I would say some cons are the front compression straps that I mentioned that I hate having to take off every time I want to get in and out of my bag into either of the main compartments. Like I said, the laptop compartment is a complaint for some people because it's in the middle. The curved shape, which you'll see a little bit more when I put the Osprey fully packed and unpack it, is an inefficient use of the space, and I think that the Deuter does a better job in that department. And then the curved front shape also limits that middle pocket on the Farpoint 40, but the Deuter suffers the same problem. As far as the Deuter, I do like the separate bottom compartment. I like that flexibility of either keeping it as a separate compartment or letting it go all the way through depending on my needs at the time. The laptop compartment is up against the back. It has a larger overall continuous space. Its main compartment is bigger than the main compartment of the Osprey. So when I used my Osprey, I had to take some of the medium-sized items and fit them into the other pocket, and it really made it a tight fit. I had very little extra space. And then the Deuters, I'll show this a little bit later when I have them packed up, their stash pocket is considerably larger. I would say it's at least twice the space because it extends all the way over here and all the way up here, whereas the Osprey stash pocket is that. I would say that's at least half, not quite half the size of the Deuter, and that stash pocket is handy when you're traveling. So I will load the Farpoint 40 up, and then we can take a look at how everything fits, and then I will pack the exact same items into the Deuter, and we can see any differences. We'll take a look at the capacity. We'll start with the Osprey Farpoint 40. I've got it pretty well packed up with everything I would need for a weeks-long international trip. You can see that it bulges on the front a bit, which the shape of it, I've got a little extra unused space here, but it's not a lot. Because when you pack it full, it kind of bulges out. It doesn't always want to sit nicely. So we'll flip it around and we'll take a look and see what I have in there and how it fits, and then pack the same items into the Deuter and see how they fit in there. One of the things that you have to do if you're going to unpack your Osprey Farpoint 40, which I'm not a fan of, say you're in the airport and you want to just get into your bag for a little something, you do have to take off the two compression straps on the external compression straps, and then you can get into it. Another issue is this little outside storage spot, and this is kind of true of all the bags. If you're going to add things in there, it's going to start taking your usable space inside. So I can't really have anything packed up in this area and have that packed in there as well. So if you're going to have a sleek outside to your bag, it's going to be consuming that inside space. So I'm going to move it over a little bit and we'll take a look and see what all I have in here. I've got a sleep mask, I've got a Sea to Summit travel towel, I've got a couple little wallets that I'm going to be using, and then that is pretty much it for that space. It was not fully packed. I could certainly fit more in there, but the more I pack in there, the less space I'm going to have in here. My camera in its little safe case that I've made is a little bit too big to fit into that outside spot. I've got a travel journal, and what else? The rain cover that would be specific for the Osprey bag, and then that is pretty much it. There's not anything else down in there. There is this soft packet here. Oh, I take it back. I do have a little pack safe lock that I don't really use for much, but if you were traveling on a train, you could use that, or if you're at a cafe and you're worried about your things getting stolen from somebody who's just going to walk by and snatch. Here is the strap that I typically take with me and never use, so that could be something that stays behind for the entire pack. And then that is about it. Nope, I take that back. I do have a pocket here. This would normally be where your laptop will go, but I don't carry one of those. I've got an empty water bottle. I've got my Scrubba portable little washing machine that I'll use to do laundry on the trips. And then I think that's it. Then we have to get into the main compartment, which is where I have most of my items. Unzip, and you have to get past these. These will get in your way. They're the external compression strap loops, and so you have to kind of move past them to get it open. It does fully open as a panel, which I love. And then as far as size and things that I have in here, I have my clear Nalgene for my liquids. I've got some other things stashed in there as well, so I can get to it quickly to go through security. Then it does have the two internal compression straps, which I do like for keeping things organized. I've got some Eagle Creek in here. I have, I think, socks or underwear, one of those. And then I've got the larger pack, which would have, there are the socks and there are my t-shirts. So this has my underwear for the trip, and then my socks and my t-shirts for the trip. I've kind of overpacked. I could probably go without a couple of those. And then I've got my Red Ox tri-fold shave kit, which I love because it'll hang from a door. I actually carry electronics in here, as well as some of my toiletry items that are not liquid. And then I like the Eagle Creek packing folders. I have 3 pairs of Bluffs Works pants that I love, as well as 3 wool and prints merino wool button-down shirts. And aside from what I'm wearing on the plane, that's all I'll need on the trip. And then this is going to be taking up a lot of space. This is my day pack, and it is a Deuter Speedlight 20. I was originally using an Osprey Daylight pack, and just saw this online and wanted to give it a try. It's really easy to remove the hip belt, which I've already done, which is just one of those little straps, doesn't do a whole lot for me. And I like the Deuter. I should do a separate review on this. I liked it because the straps and the suspension system were better than the Daylight. I also like how it fits on my back. It actually tapers down a little bit, and so it doesn't restrict your movement at all. I like taking a full-size day pack. I know I actually own one of the small ones that folds up into its own little bag, and they're certainly smaller, but you're trading off a lot of comfort during the day. I'm going to be wearing this thing all day long, and it's going to have a decent amount of stuff in it if I'm going to be out all day away from my hotel or wherever I'm staying. And so I prefer to take this. Another thing, I know I could use this as my personal item on the plane, but I prefer to pack it all into the big bag, and then if I acquire items on my travels, I can always use this as my personal item, and that'll free up space within my main bag. So as far as size, you could see how full it was packed. There wasn't a lot of excess space. By the time you pack that main compartment full, you're not going to have a lot of space left in your laptop compartment. And then this, while it looks cavernous right now, by the time you pack the main compartment full, it intrudes on the space, and by the time you put anything in this little quick access pocket, that is then intruding on your space, and there's not much left. So I will pack it back into my Deuter now, and hopefully that gives you an idea of the size of what you can fit into the bag. All of this was inside the bag, and it's a decent amount. I've got, like I said, 3 pairs of pants, 3 shirts. I've overpacked. I think I've got 5 t-shirts, 5 pairs of socks, and 5 pairs of underwear, which I wouldn't need that many because I can do laundry along the way. We'll take a look at the Deuter Transit 40 now. I've got the same exact items packed into it. Because the packs are a little different, they pack in a little differently, but they're all still in there. If you take a look at the Deuter from the side profile, it doesn't bulge out as much. You got a little curvature here, but not as much as the Farpoint 40 had. So I think it's a more efficient use of space. I've got the strap stowed again just for comparison purposes. I do actually have an external zippered pocket on here that the Osprey does not have anything comparable. I've got my rain cover in there for the whole bag in case it gets wet, and I've got space left in there. So there's a little bit of space left in there, and there's a little bit of space left in other places as well. Feeling the bag, I've got space left in the top. You can see it, I don't know if you can see it, but it still compresses a little bit because there's some empty space in there. There's also some empty space on the sides that I feel I could put more things in there. So it does have some room left over. What I do like about the Deuter also is it will sit up on its own the way it's balanced, either the way the frame is or the way everything stows in there. It has a flatter bottom, so I can sit it down and walk away without having to worry about it tipping over. It's just a little convenience. So we'll take a look going from the same pockets as before. I went to the stash pocket first. I've got my earbuds and sleep mask. I've got a couple of wallets in here. One kind of a throwaway one, and then my better one, which one I would actually have on my person, and then my travel towel. I will say that this pocket on the Deuter has more space. It runs a longer distance. It all goes all the way up to the top as well as the bottom. It's rectangular in shape. It's easy to get to everything. I didn't have it overpacked, so I like it a lot better. The Osprey pocket is only about that big. I would say about half the space. Going on this pocket, because you're going to invade your interior space, this is similar to the Osprey. There's not a lot of space once I have the main compartment packed, and if I put things in there, there's not a lot of space in here, but there is still enough space, just like there was in the Osprey. I've got my travel journal. I've got a lock that I never use, and that's about it in there. So moving on to the main compartment, open that up. It does zip down almost all of the way, not quite as far as the Osprey, but that's because there's a second compartment underneath, and I'll show you that in a minute. If I undo my internal compression straps, which I don't have really cinched up all that tightly, my camera fits in the main compartment of this bag, which I like. I didn't really like where it goes in the Osprey because it's just it's a little more exposed, putting it a little more to the outside of the bag. And I can still get to it very easily by just opening up the top and digging in for that. I've got my toiletry kit with my wet products that I need to take out for security. I've got my overpacked underwear bag, which is the exact same as what it was in the Osprey. I've got my Red Ox trifold shave kit, which I love. And I've got my Eagle Creek, my newer folder. I replaced the ones that I'd had for over 20 years, and this one's actually a little bit smaller, and so it fits in this bag a little differently, which I like better than the older folder. So, and then I have my day pack, my Deuter Speedlight that fits in there. Now, what I haven't gotten to yet is the underside compartment. And I stashed down in there my t-shirts and my socks because I don't care if they get a little smush, they can go on the bottom there. The Deuter has that nice feature that I actually had it packed the other way and did the video the other way, and then I wanted to see if I could fit everything in with this separate compartment separated out, and I could. The nice thing about this is if I want, I can unzip this, and it gives full access to the main compartment. So now I can pack things all the way to the bottom. I like having that option. Maybe you want a pair of shoes, or maybe you want to put your dirty laundry in there and keep a little separation, and the Deuter provides that option. In conclusion, I would say they are both great bags. They will do the job for you, whichever one you choose. They're both made with high quality materials and the construction is excellent. I would say, for me personally, what I have found and what I read online before I bought it was the Deuter has a little more usable space, which I prefer. and the way it's laid out, I think, is just better. I think the Osprey tries to have a little too much organization for its own good, which then limits you. I also, ever since I bought it, one of my pet peeves was having to undo these straps before ever opening the bag up, even just a little bit, even trying to get into the top. You had to open that top one up, and I don't find that I've ever really needed these compression straps. So overall, if I were recommending a bag to somebody who was going to be traveling, I would recommend the Deuter Transit 40, but you're not going to go wrong with the Farpoint 40 either. They're both great bags.